Welcome, dear dreamer. You're safe here now. Let the worries of the day quietly drift away, like clouds across a calm night sky. Tonight we're taking a peaceful journey to a place where stories breathe softly through the wind. A place of olive trees, golden light, and ancient whispers, where mythology floats gently like mist over mountain tops. Tonight's tale is not of war or thunder or storms, but of balance, beginnings, and the quiet strength that shaped Olympus. We'll walk alongside a young Zeus, not yet a king of gods, but a child cradled by the earth, guided by fate, and destined for harmony. So settle in, let your pillow hold you, like the arms of Gaia herself, and together we'll begin the dream. Long ago, before the stars had names, and before time ticked in measured steps, the world hummed in a gentle silence, not empty, but full of stillness, full of breath, full of waiting. Above the world was only sky, wide, endless, soft, and beneath it, the earth exhaled, slow and steady, wrapped in the warmth of her own beginnings. This was Gaia, the Earth Mother, not fierce or loud, but ancient and endlessly calm. And above her, hidden in the hush of eternity, small sparks began to blink. One by one, the stars, like tiny stories waiting to be told, and among them, a quiet pulse, a shimmer, not yet thunder, not yet lightning, just the gentle breath, the first breath of a child who would become a god. That child was Zeus. He did not fall from the sky with a roar. He did not shake the earth or tear the heavens. No, he arrived in a hush, as if even the stars knew he would bring a new kind of peace to the cosmos. As he rested in Gaia's arms, the winds paused to listen, and the moon, full and wise, watched over him with quiet curiosity. He was not born into power. He was born into stillness. And in that stillness, something beautiful began to grow. A destiny whispered not in commands, but in lullabies. Before temples rose from marble, before legends were etched into stone, Greece was a land of dreams. The hills were soft and round, covered in sleepy olive trees that swayed ever so gently with the breeze. The rivers murmured lullabies, winding like silver threads through fields of golden grass. And the sea, oh the sea, she sighed along the shores like a tired mother, her waves folding quietly into the sand. No kings, no battles, only silence, stars, and the breath of a waiting world. Mountains stood like giants, not loud or proud, but calm and eternal. Mount Olympus was not yet the home of gods. It was a gentle slope beneath the sky, wrapped in mist, its peak hidden in the clouds. The birds flew slowly here, their wings catching the wind like soft sails. And even the sun, when it rose each morning, did so tenderly, as if not to wake the sleeping earth too soon. Below, in the cradle of this dreaming land, Gaia held the infant Zeus close to her chest. She sang to him, not in words, but in feelings. The rustle of leaves became her voice, the warmth of soil became her touch, and the rhythm of life itself became his heartbeat. As he slept, the stars above him turned slowly in the sky. They did not rush. They did not sparkle too brightly. They simply watched and waited, because they knew, in time, This quiet child would awaken the sky, not with force, but with love, and the world, still slumbering, would open one eye and begin to rise. Zeus did not awaken all at once. His spirit, like the breeze, stirred slowly. As a child he dreamed deeply of clouds and caves, of stars and storms yet to come. But even his dreams were calm. They flowed like mountain springs, cool and quiet, winding through the roots of the world. He was hidden then, far from the eyes of Cronus, his father, a titan whose hunger for control darkened the skies. Cronus feared change. He swallowed his children to keep his reign eternal. But Zeus was spared, wrapped in soft cloth and carried gently through forests of silence. He was cradled by Gaia and hidden in a secret cave on Mount Ida, where the earth met the sky in whispers. There, surrounded by mossy stone and the hum of stillness, he grew. Nymphs danced like flickers of moonlight, tending to him with smiles instead of speech. Bees brought him golden drops of honey, thick and sweet and glowing like tiny suns. And goats, gentle and watchful, fed him warm milk beneath the cool shade of pine. He laughed not in thunder, but in echoes, soft and far away, as though the world was listening from a distance. He was growing, yes, but slowly, carefully, as though fate itself was tucking him in, night after night, whispering stories of who he would someday become. And high above his cave, the clouds began to gather, not in fear, but in anticipation. They circled like guardians, waiting, watching, glowing silver in the moonlight, because something new was being born. Not a storm, not a ruler, but a balance. A thunder god who would one day bring order not through fire, but through stillness after the rain. The cave on Mount Ida was no ordinary shelter. It was alive, breathing with the earth's rhythm, humming like a lullaby beneath the surface. And there, in its mossy heart, Gaia wrapped young Zeus in her timeless embrace. She did not speak, yet he understood her. Her silence was ancient, warm, and endlessly kind, like the hush of twilight just before the stars come out. She held him not just in her arms, but in her roots, her rivers, her stones, and her sky. When he opened his eyes, he saw green above him, ivy curling softly over stone, dappling the light like lace. When he listened, he heard the slow drip of water echoing through the cave, steady, patient, eternal. And when he slept, the earth cradled him close, wrapping him in warmth no fire could match. Each day, Gaia guided the winds to blow gently through the entrance, bringing in cool breaths of mountain air. And at night, she tilted the stars just so their glow would spill like silver paint across the walls where he lay. He was her secret, her gift to the future, and she loved him, not for his strength, not for his power, but for the quiet harmony he carried inside him. She taught him without words that strength need not shout, that growth takes time, that even the gods begin as children wrapped in dreams. And so, time passed softly. The world spun slowly, and the sun rose with kindness. Zeus grew, tall, curious, quiet, watching the skies and listening to the ground. He did not yet know who he was meant to be, but Gaia did, and in the stillness of her arms, he was safe not as a god, not as a warrior, but as a child of earth, wrapped in love and slowly, gently becoming. The days on Mount Ida moved like clouds, soft, slow, and full of quiet wonder. Zeus's childhood was not marked by thunderclaps or roars of destiny, but by gentleness, laughter, and the soft rhythm of the world around him. He wandered barefoot across the mossy stones, each step cool and comforting. His fingers brushed the tall grasses that swayed like lullabies in the breeze. And above him, the sky was always open, vast, blue, and welcoming, like a parent smiling from afar. The nymphs who watched over him glided between the trees, like morning mist. They hummed songs older than language and braided flowers into his hair. He laughed easily then, not with power, but with joy, the kind that bubbles up from stillness and spills out like the song of a spring. Each morning, birds brought him pieces of the world, feathers from distant mountains, smooth stones from sleeping rivers, and once, a petal that shimmered like starlight. Zeus would hold these treasures in his hands, turning them gently, studying them with the wide-eyed wonder of a boy who still saw magic in everything. The cave became a home, not dark, but safe, not cold, but quiet. Its walls held stories only the earth could tell, of roots that whispered secrets, and stones that remembered the beginning of time. And when evening fell, Zeus would lie beneath the entrance, where the stars peeked through the pines. He would close his eyes and feel the pulse of the earth beneath him, the steady, soothing beat of life. There were no questions, no rush, just breath and warmth and waiting, because all things, even gods, need time to grow. And Zeus, wrapped in the calm of the mountain, was becoming more with each passing breeze, a child of balance, a spirit of peace, a heart as wide as the sky. As the seasons whispered by, the winds began to shift, not loudly, not harshly, but like a quiet breath before dawn. Something deep within Zeus stirred, not in anger, but in knowing. Far beyond Mount Ida, the world was changing. Cronus, the Titan father, still ruled, gripping time with heavy hands, swallowing anything that dared to grow too bold. His fear had made him cruel, but not louder than destiny, and destiny was beginning to hum again. Zeus did not rage. He did not shout. Instead, he listened. He listened to the trembling leaves that carried stories of his siblings, trapped in silence, waiting in darkness. He listened to the rivers, who murmured that harmony could not bloom in chains. And most of all, he listened to the earth, Gaia, whose steady voice reminded him, even stillness has strength. One moonlit evening, Zeus stood quietly at the mouth of the cave. He was no longer small, no longer hidden. He breathed in the cool mountain air and let it fill him, not with fire, but with purpose. This was not a call to war. It was a call to restore balance. So, with calm steps, he walked through the forest, past the trees, who knew his name. The nymphs did not cry out. They only bowed their heads, knowing the time had come. Zeus was not leaving in anger. He was moving with peace. He would face Cronus not with fury, but with quiet certainty, with the wisdom of wind, the patience of stone, and the promise of a world that longed to breathe freely again. This was the beginning, not of battle, but of release. And as Zeus stepped into the night, the stars above shimmered gently, not in warning, but in welcome. Zeus walked not as a warrior, but as a breeze. He moved through the land with quiet feet and a steady heart, the ground beneath him humming with recognition. For the earth knew the time of stillness was giving way to a new kind of calm, one born of balance. The Titans, ancient and towering, had ruled with weight and shadow. They were not evil, only afraid of change, afraid of light, afraid of the gentler world beginning to stir beneath their reign. But Zeus did not bring violence. He brought a whisper that reached into the deepest parts of the earth, a whisper that reminded the mountains to rise, the rivers to run freely, and the skies to open. His voice was not loud, but it carried. It wrapped around Cronus like mist. It softened his grip, not with might, but with meaning. "You have held too tightly," Zeus said, not in words, but in feeling. "Now, let go." And slowly, the Titans began to unravel, not in fear, not in pain, but in peace. Like leaves falling in autumn, they drifted back into the earth that once birthed them. They closed their eyes, not in defeat, but in relief. The chains of time loosened. The stars exhaled, and space was made for something new. Zeus did not rise above them. He stood among them, grateful, humble, ready, not to rule with thunder, but to guide with light. And so the world sighed, a long, gentle sigh that echoed across the mountains. Balance was returning. Harmony had awakened, and the boy who had slept beneath moss and starlight was now the calm at the center of the sky. With the Titans resting once more beneath the earth, the world did not erupt, it exhaled. The sky, which had waited so long behind veils of fear and silence, now stretched wide, not in fanfare, but in stillness. It opened like morning petals touched by light. Zeus stood quietly beneath its vast blue hush, feeling its breath in his chest. The clouds no longer circled in warning. They floated freely, soft and slow, painting the heavens with peace. He did not rush to claim the throne. There was no need. The world already knew. Birds flew higher, rivers sparkled, wider, and even the stars, far away and watching, blinked a little brighter. Zeus lifted his gaze, and the sky responded. It did not rumble. It welcomed. And so he stepped upward, not climbing, not conquering, but rising. With every heartbeat, he became more himself. The shepherd of storms, the keeper of balance, the stillness before the rain. He was crowned not with gold, but with clouds, not with applause, but with the silence. And as he took his place in the heavens, he looked down upon the world, not as a ruler, but as a guardian. The earth below breathed, the skies above glowed, and time itself paused just for a moment to whisper, "All is well." High above the whispering forests and sleeping hills, a quiet mountain stirred, not with quakes, but with breath, not with fire, but with presence. Olympus, the sacred crown of the earth, began to rise, not as a fortress, but as a haven, not to divide, but to shelter. It did not appear all at once. It unfolded gently, like mist parting at dawn. Stone shaped itself slowly, as if remembering a promise long buried in silence, and each peak reached skyward, not in pride, but in peace. Zeus watched from the heavens, his gaze soft. He did not summon Olympus, he welcomed it, for the mountain had always been waiting for harmony to return, waiting for stillness to lead. The winds carried the song of its rise, a low, melodic hum that wrapped around the world like a lullaby. The stars paused in their courses to listen. Even the moon slowed her arc to watch. No trumpet, no thunder, only stillness and stone, and the soft weight of balance being restored. At its peak, the clouds curled like gentle blankets, and within them space opened, not for a palace, but for peace. Olympus would be a place where the skies whispered and the earth listened, a place where gods could dream gently, without fear. And as Zeus placed his bare feet upon the mountain summit, for the first time, the wind welcomed him. It circled him lovingly, not bowing, but embracing. He closed his eyes. The world, once heavy, now floated, and Olympus, born from silence, stood quietly behind him, not just a throne, a home. Now seated in the skies, Zeus did not command with roars. He listened, deeply, quietly, to the winds that danced through the heavens. They came not just from the north or south, but from every corner of creation. Warm winds from golden fields, cool breezes from the ocean's hush, gentle gusts from distant mountains, where no voice had yet spoken. Each one carried stories, not loud ones, but soft ones. Stories of bees in sleepy meadows, of waves touching moonlit shores, of hearts beating quietly in the dark. And Zeus listened to them all. He did not tame the winds. He learned their rhythm. He let them swirl around Olympus, weaving through the columns like curious spirits, stirring only what needed to be stirred. Balance, he had learned, was not stillness alone. It was movement with purpose, a dance between calm and energy, between hush and heartbeat. So, he guided the winds, not as a master, but as a friend. With a glance he might shift a breeze to cool a sun-drenched hill. With a breath he could calm a restless sea, but never too much, always just enough. The winds loved him for this. They brushed gently through his curls and sang through the skies in tones too soft for mortals to hear. Songs of trust, of balance, of skies watched over with quiet care. And when Zeus rested, as even gods must do, the winds kept watch, cradling Olympus in an invisible embrace, turning chaos into calm, just as he had. Night gently unfurled across the heavens, laying down her dark velvet cloak, and above, the stars began to appear, not all at once, but one by one, like soft thoughts rising at the edge of sleep. Zeus stood beneath them, quiet and still, for he knew each star was a story, each shimmer was a whisper from the past, or a promise for the future. They did not shout, they glowed. In the hush of Olympus, he listened as the constellations spoke, not in words, but in feelings. Warmth, wonder, wisdom, older than time. There was Orion standing tall with gentle strength, and Cassiopeia resting gracefully among her dreams. Pegasus drifted slowly across the sky, his wings barely stirring the silence, and above them all, the Milky Way flowed like a river of memory. These stories were not meant to teach through fear, but to guide with light. Zeus, though mighty, found comfort in their company. He often sat for hours, saying nothing, simply watching as the night moved softly above him, each star a gentle echo of something sacred. And sometimes he'd lift a finger, just one, and trace a new story into the sky, a quiet tale for a sleeping world below, of courage without anger, of love without noise, of a God who ruled with the stillness and stars. The winds hushed, the moon smiled, and the heavens continued their slow, peaceful spin, because in Zeus's sky, stories didn't end, they shimmered. Twilight came to Olympus, not with shadows, but with softness. The sky blushed in hues of lavender and gold, as if the day itself were sighing, not from weariness, but from wonder. Zeus stood at the edge of the heavens, watching the light shift like silk across the mountains. Behind him, the great halls of Olympus glowed gently, their marble warmed by the setting sun. Around him, the other gods moved slowly. Hera's footsteps were quiet as falling petals. Poseidon's laughter, once wild like the sea, now rolled like a distant tide. Athena leaned into the breeze with calm eyes, her wisdom humming softly through the olive trees. They were not rulers now. They were keepers of balance, stewards of peace. Together, they watched the world below drift into dreams. Smoke curled from village hearths, lanterns flickered like tiny stars, and the hush of evening wrapped around every valley and hill. Zeus did not speak, but his presence was enough. Strong, but not heavy. Vast, but not distant. He was the sky, steady and ever there. As twilight deepened, the pantheon did not close its eyes. It opened its heart, and the gods, once born of storm and struggle, became the guardians of a gentler age. Even immortals, it seemed, could be soothed by dusk, and as the stars awakened once more above their heads, a single breeze whispered across Olympus, "All is calm, all is as it should be." Night had fully arrived, wrapping Olympus in a blanket of velvet blue. The stars shimmered above like tiny lanterns, gently flickering in a sky that held no weight. And on the peak of the sacred mountain, everything was still. Zeus stood alone, for a moment, his gaze reaching far beyond the clouds. He did not speak. He simply breathed, slowly, deeply, as if exhaling every storm he had ever carried. Behind him, the halls of the gods were silent. No footsteps, no voices, only the soft hum of dreams beginning. From somewhere unseen, a melody rose, not from harp or flute, but from the mountain itself, a lullaby woven from the wind and starlight. It moved gently through the trees, across the stones, and into the hearts of every creature below. Birds nestled closer in their nests. Wolves curled tighter in their dens. Even the restless seas seemed to sigh into sleep. Zeus listened, and in that quiet song, he heard everything he had ever hoped for: balance, kindness, peace without pride. He lay back on the clouds, his great form light as mist, and let the lullaby carry him to. Olympus glowed softly in the night, not as a fortress in the sky, but as a cradle of calm. The world turned beneath it, the stars watched above it, and the gods, gentle now and dreaming, rested within it. And the lullaby played on, soft, endless. Home, now, dear dreamer, let the stars above cradle your thoughts. You have walked the skies beside Zeus. You have listened to the winds, the whispers, and the soft rising of Olympus. You have felt the peace of a world balanced, not by power but by quiet purpose. There is no need now to hold on to the day. Let it float away like a feather on the breeze. Above you, the heavens remain still. The gods slumber in their twilight halls. The earth breathes calmly, gently, slowly. And you are safe. You are held. You are home beneath the stars. Close your eyes, little one. Let the echoes of Olympus guide you to rest. The winds will watch over you. The night will wrap you in silence, and the stars will sing you to sleep until morning light kisses your window once again. Sleep and dream softly.